Absolutely, Pat. Thank you very much. I think we could be the poster child for each one of those four traditional methods over the last 10 or 12 years. Let me give you a little background on where we were, and then we'll talk about kind of the story of how we got to where we are today. Goodwill Central Indiana is really a large, small, medium business. We're 3,100 employees. We have 81 different locations in Central Indiana. From a technical perspective, we run about 100 virtual servers in our environment, 15 terabytes of data. Over the past 5 to 6 years, we've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in our disaster recovery environment, ending up in probably a hybrid between Pat's traditional method 3 and 4, kind of a warm site with a hot site enabled in there. But it was very expensive, and when you do that, every time you do an upgrade in one, you have to do an upgrade in another, so your capital investment is almost double every time you're trying to do anything. And then what I ran into is, I like to call it the same old song and dance. When I arrived at Goodwill 4 years ago, there had been a pretty major staffing change within the department. So our systems engineer was new, and we're preparing for our annual disaster recovery test. And he comes to me and says, I don't know how they did it last year. They had to use smoke and mirrors. They had to fake it. There's no way this works. I need 2 months to get ready. So I gave him 2 months. The test was successful. A year later, for a variety of reasons, we had another staffing change, and my systems engineer comes to me and says, I don't know how they did it last year. They had to fake it. They had to use smoke and mirrors. There's no way this works. I need 2 months to get ready. So I was pretty frustrated with that and was looking for a different approach. So what I'd really like to do now is kind of talk about the Tale of Two Recoveries. So if you go to the next slide and click. January 6, 2014, Indianapolis was hit with a blizzard that just crippled the city. Businesses all over the city were asked to shut their doors for the day because of trying to clear the streets from the blizzard. And then about 8:30 in the morning, there was a power outage that impacted downtown Indianapolis. We did not have the luxury of having a generator backup, so our entire data center went crash without the power. When we called the power company, they were anticipating 48 hours to get power restored to downtown Indianapolis. So we kicked off our business continuity plan. The executive team got on one conference call, and the IT team got on a separate, we're a Google shop, so they actually got on a Google Hangout to start talking about what are we going to do. As I'm running back and forth between the two calls, between the IT call and the executive call, IT saying, well, we need 12 to 15 hours to recover. It's going to be 48 hours before we have power back. Once we recover, we can't come back because disaster recovery is only one direction. And so I'm relaying that information to the executive team, and they're thrilled when they realize that they've spent $400,000 or $500,000 in the last 3 or 4 years on a solution that's not working. When someone in the IT team says, well, hey, we should check our hot site to make sure that it's got power, and you kind of know where that story's going, they were without power as well, so we couldn't recover even if we wanted to. Which again was a very popular news to share with our executive team. We did dodge a bullet, or in this case we dodged a snowball, and power was actually recovered by early afternoon. We were able to bring our systems up, but obviously just led to the extreme frustration of the entire team. So if you want to click, I'll show you our disaster recovery test that we ran in June. Trust me, this is an actor reenactment of Jason Fisher, our systems architect, sitting on a beach doing a disaster recovery test. And no, he wasn't really sitting on the beach, but that's about as simple as it was. He picked up the phone, he called Bluelock, said, we are declaring a test disaster, please execute our run book, and he hung up the phone. 2 hours later, Bluelock called back and said, your production environment has been recovered. It is ready for you to test. It was really as easy as that. So if you go to the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about how we got from the snowstorm to the beach. If you want to click, there we go. So this is a design of our disaster recovery environment now, and really the plan was quite simple. It was to connect the two sites together, so our data center here in Indianapolis with Bluelock's Las Vegas data center. And for that, we used TW Telecom's E-line to provide elasticity between those locations. We installed the agents on our 100 virtual servers, and we began our replication. Now, our project took a little bit longer in duration than a lot of projects because we were also moving the head end of our network from our corporate headquarters to a hardened data center. So that kind of further complicated it. But the effort to do the recovery as a service really was about 6 weeks in duration, and that was it. So let's talk a little bit about some of the complications as well as some of the lessons learned. If you go to the next slide. The challenges we had, the first one was visibility into our current environment. How many servers did we have? What CPU were they using? How much RAM were they using? What was the volatility of our data? How often was it changing? How much data did we need to replicate? We didn't have a good way of looking at that, so we spent a lot of time on the front end of the project performing some of the what I would call routine investigation into our own production environment. Then the next challenge was the initial seed of the data out to Las Vegas. We had undersized the pipe because we didn't realize the volatility of the data that we had. So the seed took about 2 weeks of replicating servers, replicating our SAN out to Las Vegas. Had we properly sized that pipe, that would have been much faster to do. And then the third challenge was something that I'm calling the design hangover. And if you remember the old story about the woman who's cooking Thanksgiving dinner, and the recipe says to cut the ham in half and put it in the pan and then put it in the oven. And she asked her mom, why do we cut the ham in half? And she said, well, that's the way Grandma always did it. So she went to Grandma and said, Grandma, why do we cut the ham in half? And she said, because when I started that recipe, I only had a small pan and the ham wouldn't fit. So we kind of took the same approach on our initial design of what we were doing and put ourselves into a little bit of a box that overcomplicated things. And as we sat down and brainstormed ideas of how to get out of that, we realized we had designed ourselves into a solution that fit the old world of thinking, where your networks weren't segregated and you had production and disaster recovery maybe on the same network and IP addresses. And so once we understood that, we were able to change the way we designed that. The results, if you want to click once more. So we fully segregated our network, so our disaster recovery now runs with the same IP addresses, but out in the space in the Las Vegas data center of Bluelock. Our recovery point objective, well, this is not the SLAs that we have in place. Our experience is we can recover with 30 seconds, yes, 30 seconds loss of data. Our recovery time objective for 100 servers and 15 terabytes is under 2 hours. Just something no way we could have done before. And then the last one there, look ma, no hands, it really was as easy as picking up the phone, calling Bluelock and saying we're declaring a disaster. They executed the run book and our system was absolutely back in place again. Some of the other things that we've noticed out of this is when we're running our disaster recovery environment at Bluelock, I don't know what horsepower you guys have out there, but the response time on our application is faster from our disaster recovery environment than our production environment. Had we had the snowstorm today, we would absolutely flip the switch and go live with our disaster recovery data, because the other thing that Recovery as a Service provides is the ability to return. So once you've fixed whatever caused the disaster, you just change the replication direction, and then you can get back to your production environment. A great added benefit. So for us, it's provided additional agility. We're able to focus on more value-add things to the business than one more disaster recovery test, and it provides the elasticity in our environment that we need to continue to grow. So thank you very much. I know we're going to do questions at the end, so I'll turn it back over again.